We're gonna get cooking today. So gonna need some shallots, mayonnaise, chicken stock, a bag of couscous, some spring mix, whatever that is, some fresh farm-grown rosemary, maple syrup exclusively from Vermont, and the cutest bottle of white wine vinegar you have ever seen. A pork cutlet, and it also calls for an apple, but I'm actually allergic to apples, so we're just gonna save that for later. So we're first gonna start off with the shallot. We're gonna cut off all the nasty bit, like the root, which we don't need. And you know what? We're gonna peel off all that slimy gunk because I don't know. I have a weird thing for like textures in food, so I don't know. I know I'm not the only one. Oh, we're also gonna demonstrate proper knife safety here, obviously. And then we're gonna just cut all those ends off because we're all about making the dish look good rather than good for you. So we're gonna cut the whites of the shallot off, and we're gonna slice that up. And because we want to look professional on this show, we're going to throw it into a little container and show it off to the camera. And we're going to do the exact same thing with the other shallot, just faster. We are also going to then cut up the greens of the shallot and listen to the shallot as it reminds you it's alive by screaming as you're cutting it. You're going to want to contemplate your life choices as some of the shallot slices fall to the ground, as well as almost, drop the knife, and then get over it. So what we're then going to do is we're going to pull out that fresh farm-grown parsley, rosemary, I can't remember, and then dispose the container as you would. And we are going to pick off the leaves individually, one by one. Actually, I'm just going to speed this process up for you. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to cut all this out. We're then going to finely chop this by chopping it. And then doing this technique where you put your non-dominant hand on the back of the knife and rock the knife back and forth like so. Now, out of all this rosemary, you're really only going to need 1 teaspoon. So measure that out and then realize that you have a lot more. Like, a lot more. But hey, you have fresh farm cut rosemary, or whatever. Anyway, so we have this apple here. And you know what? I have a plan for it. We're just gonna take a couple of these and just put them in there and then set it on display for all the other apples to see so that they know not to come onto your turf and mess around with you. Yeah. I have no idea what I'm doing with my hands here, but from what I can tell, it's all about cross-contamination and how when you cut meat, you don't want to use a plastic cutting board or a wooden one, but hey, you work with what you got, right? So we're going to take some paper towels, going to lay them out, and we're going to open the package. And then we're also going to realize that instead of 2, there was actually 4. Yeah. So what you're going to do is grab some more paper towels, and we're going to pat dry these pork chops down, or cutlets, or we're going to pat dry the meat down, or just dry, I don't know. And then we're going to season with a bunch of salt. Like a little too much salt. And some fresh ground pepper. If you ever have the chance to buy a pepper mill where you can freshly grind down pepper, buy it and put some whole peppercorns in there. Because believe me, once we have it once, you will never use that pre-ground crap ever again. We're gonna put a pot on the stove, puts a little bit of oil in it, put it onto, like, I don't know, high heat to get the oil going. And then what we're gonna do is then change that to medium, like a little above medium for whatever reason. And then we're gonna add those shallot whites in there. And half of that teaspoon of that rosemary. Is that what it was? Rosemary? I don't even know. Then we're going to grab a wooden spoon because we're Italian and that's what we use. And we're going to stir this together until it's fragrant, which takes about, like, I don't know, 30 seconds. Once when it's fragrant, we're going to add some water. Don't ask me how much because I don't have the recipe in front of me and I can't remember. So we're just going to add some water until it looks about like that. Then we're going to add our bag of couscous. And then stir that around. Add some salt. Add some freshly ground pepper. Kill the heat. And I don't know, keep stirring it. And then cover it with the lid that's just a little too big because you couldn't find the right one. We're then going to set a timer for 10 minutes and let that couscous cook for that amount of time. We're then going to pull out a pan, toss in about what is that, a tablespoon of butter. Let that bad boy melt. I'm gonna spread that butter around, making sure to coat the entire pan. Look at that butter bubble. And then throw that pork in there. We're going to grab the world's worst tongs ever and try to flip these bad boys. Oh yeah, there we go. And we're gonna cook for like an additional, I don't know, however long it took the pork chops to get like that. This would be a lot easier if I had the recipe right in front of me. And if I, like, I don't know, had time to do this voiceover. But I have like a TV show that's coming on in like 5 minutes, so yeah. So, breaking out those world's worst tongs. We're gonna bring them, look on the underside of the pork chops, bring them out. And we're gonna cook the other two the same way. Alright, so once when all the pork chops are done and cooked, we're gonna take them out, set them on a plate, and we're gonna sprinkle in the rest of that rosemary. We've also killed the heat. We're gonna add a little bit of that white wine vinegar. We're also going to add all of that Vermontian maple syrup. Look at that. Yep, get it all out of there. We're going to add that chicken stock. Is it stock or concentrate? I don't know. It looks like that, and boy, does it taste good on its own. But that's not what this is about. It's about... Anyway. And we're going to add a little bit of water. Now, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to add salt and pepper first and then stir it all together and then simmer it until it gets thick. I didn't do that. Yep, just mixing it all up. And letting it simmer until it gets thick. This is me just to, doing something stupid just to prove a point. At the time of cooking this, it was, 2:04 in the morning. And at the time of recording this voiceover, it's 11:30. So, yeah. Oh, and I'm also doing this voiceover, like, weeks and weeks and weeks later. It's better to say if I just did it a month. So anyway, back to simmering. Once when it's thick, just drop a tablespoon of butter in there. Look at that melt. And mix it all up real good. Add salt and freshly ground pepper. And keep on stirring. Now, a good way to see if your sauce or fond is thick enough is if it's able to coat the back of a spoon, but this is a brown sauce and a brown wooden spoon, so that really didn't teach me jack. But it is pretty thick, so. Anyway, what you're going to want to do is add them pork chops back into it. And kill the heat once more. And then flip them over to coat. Oh, look at that. This is making me really hungry, by the way. So yeah, you want to just, move them over, make some room. And I end up doing one of the most cardinal sins in cooking, which is crowding a pan. You don't want to do that, because, then stuff doesn't have room to cook. But it was 2 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't care. And you know what? I still don't. Anyway, once we have all the pork chops in there and they're coated, you're going to want to pull out a bowl and add the mayonnaise. And the rest of that white wine vinegar. And you're going to want to mix. Then you're going to want to pull out that bag of spring mix and just throw it on in there. Now, I'm not a huge salad guy, but this dressing was really good. Like all it is just mayonnaise and freaking white wine vinegar. That was so good. Oh yeah, you also want to toss the salad. So, you're gonna wanna pull out a plate, and here comes the most important part. Actually, putting all that stuff down. So, you're gonna wanna put on a little bed of couscous. Kind of flatten it down. You're supposed to fluff it up with a fork, but the pots and pans I have are really weird, and they really, really don't like metal. So, you work with what you got. Then you're gonna pull out a pork chop, throw it on that little bed, and we're gonna give ourselves a nice little salad. And then, because you have some more, we're gonna drizzle a little bit of that sauce over everything. Oh yeah. And why not the salad too, right? Uh-huh. And I'm gonna garnish with those scallion greens that we've had ever since the beginning. And as well as that fresh farm rosemary, because we had a shit ton. And there you go. You have, oh, and don't forget salt. And why not? Throw it on the salad too. And freshly ground pepper. And that's acceptable on salad. Salt is not at all whatsoever. And look, there you have it. Some honey glazed pork with couscous and a salad. Enjoy.